I was booking a trip, and the entire process of something that should have been so simple took almost 2 hours. And what I thought would be interesting content, maybe someone should take this idea and run with it.
You kind of had a sly little thing in your head, in your back pocket.
The whole idea of the content channel is whatever process you're about to engage in, you may or may not know this. On your birthday next year, I am...
Oh, this is, I mean, I'll do this, but this is almost like an evil one to pop on somebody without any preparation. Like, we've made the decision. I'll tell these people. We made the decision in the first at least few episodes of this, and we're planning absolutely nothing.
All right, welcome back to another episode of the Who Cares podcast. I'm Jay O'Brien.
I'm Jeff Jackel.
You know what I was thinking? Because I don't know why we're both drinking coffee this late. I never, ever drink coffee past noon, ever.
2:30 p.m.
By the way, this coffee was from 9:30, and I don't heat it up. I don't like...
Where's your thingy?
Yeah, so I have had multiple Ember mugs. For those of you who don't know what that is, it's basically a coffee mug that's super fancy, Wi-Fi enabled, whatever. Keeps your coffee hot all day or the same temperature all day.
Your chosen temperature.
Yeah, there you go. I've had multiple. I never use them, ever. I just go pure analog. I let the coffee get real cold. I don't heat it up in the microwave. I just keep it.
Do you have a black one?
I did. I probably still do.
Yeah, I'll take that one. That's what I want. I want to switch mine out because it's just as filthy. It just, I mean, it's not actually dirty. It's clean, but it always looks brown inside. Because
but it's funny because, it looks very it's the morning and it's talk showy and whatever.
Oh yeah.
But it's 2 or 3 in the afternoon. But it reminds me of that episode of Full House.
Dude, I'm watching
Wake
so
up,
much Full House
Wake
right
up, San Francisco.
Oh, they bash the mic.
Wake up, and they're like get more and more aggressive, and then shatter.
Wake up, San Francisco.
I literally just watched this episode 2 days ago. That's so weird that are you even referencing that? The kids are like obsessed with Full House right now.
Isn't it so weird that the two hosts of that show, one ended up in jail, one ended up dead?
And it's really sad. It's kind of too soon. It hasn't even been a year. Maybe it's been a year.
To say
Probably
it's
been
weird
2
that
years.
someone died?
No, I don't know. I just don't want to talk about it.
Are you crying?
No. What's weirder is because I was a kid. Obviously, you were. I don't even know what the years.
You were in college.
No, that's
I was a kid.
To think about he was just Bob Saget. He was Danny Tanner, so he's like totally squeaky clean.
Yeah.
It would be so funny to have been an adult at that time and watch a sitcom with a guy knowing that he had just the filthiest comedy and he's playing this role.
I think if you were, John Stamos, which we could only hope, but
I'd give anything.
If you were a friend of his and offset, you're who knows what sort of debauchery is going on, and then he's like, all right, hold on, one more drink of my cocktail, one more sniff of the cocaine or whatever. It's like, okay, I'm going to teach Michelle a life lesson here. Yeah. That would be fun to see.
Right, yeah. But we didn't know the difference. That's just what he was. It's great.
So welcome back to another episode of the Who Cares podcast.
You said that.
I guess in the, whatever you call that, music intro, whatever, it kind of illustrates a little bit about why it is the name.
Sure.
But Who Cares with a period. So it got me thinking actually of something you and I have talked about a lot of times. So the previous episode we discussed customer complaints, righting or wrong, having an issue and then someone not only hopefully corrects and rectifies that issue, but they make the outcome even better.
Sure.
By going above and beyond. But one thing that we didn't discuss that I think we should discuss is when we say this podcast is for people who care, entrepreneurs, business operators, people who actually care, we should drill down on that a little bit. We often say this when we have an issue with a company like American Airlines, who will remain nameless, or someone where you are trying to correct an issue. There is a broken process. There is something that an unjust thing that is happening that you're trying to fix as the consumer. It's become your burden, and because of whatever policies or red tape are there, it's just not getting done. And you and I have both said this on a phone call with whoever that customer service representative
I already
is.
know what you're going to say.
Yeah, you're saying, hey, there's a lot of friction and a lot of barriers here. I promise you, someone somewhere in your organization cares about this. Someone cares, and I just got to talk to that person.
Yeah. Well, yeah, and what you're thinking is like, I don't know at your organization how far up the food chain you have to go before you can find that person, but somebody will recognize that there's a process issue here, that this clearly was not only not my fault as a consumer, but should not be my burden to try to fix through the channels that you're currently doing, and that just the way you're operating or the way you're going about this just does not make sense for anybody. Because a lot of times we're looking at it as like anybody that's a business owner or operator, when they're on that other side of the coin, right? Because it's the same thing we're talking about. We often the opposite. We take off your business owner hat,
Put on the consumer hat.
put on the consumer hat.
Really to illustrate empathy.
Yeah. But when we're on the consumer side and we have an issue and we're talking with the company, you can't help, especially as an entrepreneur or an owner, like you can't help but view it from the very top down. And you're essentially saying, assuming that Verizon's actually a good example. Assuming that the people who are making decisions for how this company should operate, how you should treat people, assuming they even at all share our perspective on that they would not like. They would see an issue. They would see a fault with the way that you're operating right now.
Yeah. So I thought about this last week. I was booking a trip. I was also kind of rearranging some things, and the entire process of something that should have been so simple took almost 2 hours. And what I thought would be interesting content, like maybe someone should take this idea and run with it. But the whole idea of the content channel is whatever process you're about to engage in, just document yourself doing the whole thing, right? So for me, in this situation, I had a United Airlines credit. Okay, it's got a confirmation number. It says United on it, everything. So I'm like, I need to book some flights. So I go on the United's website. I go through the whole thing, find the flights. When it comes time to like payment, how it's going to be tendered is credit. Not only is it going to be credit, but it pulled the credit from my account. It sees it. It's clearly assigned. And when it's time to check out, it won't let me select that as a form of tender.
Okay.
And there's a little thing that says, this was booked through a third party, like this was booked through a travel agency. Therefore, you must go to the travel agency to like rebook it, like with this credit. So I'm like, well, that's weird. Like you're looking at the credit right there, like it says United all over it. So
is that all correct? You went through a travel agent to book the thing, and then
so what they're referring to is I booked with American Express points.
Okay.
So that's the travel agency, right? So I call Amex and I tell them the whole thing. Hey, there's this credit, whatever. They go, yeah. Of course, they take time doing this, and they go, there's nothing we can do. We don't see that credit. It looks like it's a United credit. You need to go to them. And
so each one of these companies is telling you got to go talk to that other person.
Which, by the way, anytime you book through like Expedia or any of these companies, this is the shit show you run into. It's only convenient when it only runs forward and it crosses the finish line.
Yeah.
If any hiccup arises, you're screwed.
Yeah.
So I'm going through this thing. I'm thinking, how interesting of content would that be if all I did was document that whole thing, and that whole video would be like an hour and 48 minutes or something, and it just gets published online somewhere. I think what probably happens is, yeah, people would be bored of it.
I was going to say, you just used the word interesting. I'm listening to your...
No, that's not the interesting part. The interesting part is that the comments and all that stuff, all it's going to be is amplifying the shit out of what just went down, whether someone watches it or not. So United and Amex are for sure seeing that and being exposed to this. And hopefully it does reach the CEO or someone who cares in the organization where they go, wait a minute, hold on. Is that our process? Because right now they would never know. They would actually never know that that's the process, probably for a very long time, because no matter who I complain to or who, it's never reaching that person. Yeah. But once 100,000 people share it or whatever, it's like, yeah, I mean, there's things that I'm sure go on in our company where it's like, oh, I didn't know that like that process is still happening, or like this is a little tweaked and broken, that could be better. We would never know because someone's just solving it and putting a Band-Aid on it, and it may never reach a full overhaul of process change.
Yeah.
But that situation, it totally would.
So, I mean, we could do that. Like, we wouldn't be the ones to do that because a lot of it is just waiting on a phone call. You don't like to do that for more than like 3 minutes.
No, I hate doing all of it. But there's so many things in life that going into it is going to be a problem. It's a simple thing, but you're like, oh man, I got to, undo this order. I got to cancel this delivery, or I got to like switch healthcare plans, or whatever it is that you're like, it seems like such a simple idea, but I know this is going to be very cumbersome and take up so much time.
Yeah, well, and the thought that goes through your head about the business, so like in this case, I guess is about United. It's also very hard because it's such a huge company. These are two huge companies. But the thought that goes through your head is, does somebody who cares, like high enough of the chain, whatever, not know that this is what's happening? Or is it just, this just is what it is, right? Like this is, they are aware that there's these challenges, or they're aware that this is what the customers are. Like, for example, take it as a very like blanket thing about customer service response time, right? So not a specific situation, but in companies where you call and you will honestly wait for 25 minutes, do we assume, like I always think about, I wonder whether they're just not really looking at this, they don't realize that, or whether they have made the conscious decision that, yeah, we could hire one more customer support person or 10 more customer support people and cut that down by 25%, but our people will wait. Our customers will wait.
Well, take it a step further. So yeah, these companies are huge, which means the problem is even bigger than I perceive it to be, right? Because if I'm on the phone for an hour with this person, that means that person can solve 8 problems a day maximum, right? So if this process was occurring and, the CEO of United's like, wait, hold on. We issue credit like every single day in this way. So you're telling me anyone who wants to redeem it has to go through this? Oh my God. Like, not only do we need to change the process for the consumer, but now I can let 75% of my customer service people go, right? Like, I'm paying through the nose. It's actually a selfish thing to like improve your P&L.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, that's like a bigger conversation around, for every company, they got to kind of figure out. I mean, obviously we believe in automation. It's like a lot of what we do, the reason that we exist as a company. So what's the thing that we've talked about? I forget what the number is, but every company has to figure out whatever number or frequency of some sort of an issue happening is enough for them to say, let's invest in automation for that, or let's invest in solving this problem. So like,
of course.
Yeah. So like this situation is saying like, okay, well, if every single time that this issue arises, and this might be like a tech glitch or something, did they come out and say that it was like some sort of an issue that was temporary of the website?
Here's how messed up the solution was. I was on the phone. I was on the phone so long with this that like, eventually I ended up just saying like, I'm just going to book this, but like, you can have the credit. I'm just going to book this on my own now because it was taking so much time. And they issued a full refund, not in credit, but like back to my payment method on file because it couldn't get figured out. So they actually lost the revenue. They lost me flying on their airline as a customer because I booked a different airline.
Else. Oh, wow.
Yeah, like the whole thing was a mess because they couldn't even figure out their own internal system.
So they received, I don't actually know, honestly, how this works internally, because I know that American isn't paying the full pop to Amex when you choose to book through Amex, right? But either way, they're getting something from Amex for that because you've now exchanged those points into American. You committed to that, to be working with American, right? Now you're saying that they've lost all of what was basically dollars that were committed to them.
Yes.
By giving it back to back to Amex?
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
So then that's what you would say to be like, well, now you just lost money and you took up time of all your customer people and you pissed off a customer.
Right.
Someone higher up cares.
So, and this is the point. So when we say, okay, the Who Cares podcast or whatever, you could care for a lot of different reasons. I think our primary reason for caring is because, wow, that was a really terrible experience for the customer. That's like really clunky. I think should be more streamlined. Like it doesn't feel good. Like all of the very simple like reasons, those are the reasons you probably should care. But even if you're like this hard ass CFO, whatever, that doesn't give a shit about anything, you still actually care about your bottom line. And it ultimately is all funneling down to that.
This was very sneaky of you. because we've been talking about the name and the who cares and it being a period and not a question mark because it's for people who care. And we always talk about it being for the people that they, like really the caring for the people. We haven't even, you kind of had a sly little thing in your head, in your back pocket that was like, but it's also about them caring about how their business is operating.
Sure. I think you're giving me more credit than I deserve.
I didn't even think of that. I honestly didn't. Like I was honest. I was like basically right on the nose of like who cares is talking about caring about the people involved, relationships, specifically making a good experience, et cetera, which that's what this is ultimately, fixing those problems and setting up automation for any kind of a function or something that happens more than whatever you decide, but once every day, once every week, once every whatever. That is obviously solving a pain point for the consumer, but it's also, I kind of like love the double meaning of like, it also, you care about the result of that is benefit to your own company. So there's kind of like a self-serving,
because I think at the end of the day, most organizations can simplify way beyond they even think they can. So even if you have someone who's like, all I care about is dollars and cents and getting the new customer and increasing revenue and increasing profitability, whatever. If you started with care, those things would happen as a byproduct much easier than what you're doing to try and achieve those things. You know, like improving a process that is broken. Sure. If you just thought, wow, we're really creating a bunch of red tape and unnecessary hoops to jump through. What if we just did this? Wow, our customers love us. So not only are we going to get referrals from those customers and retention from those customers, but wow, I didn't even think about the resources I'm now saving because we improved this process for the customer.
Well, yeah, there's all the
so I don't care why you care, but you should just care.
There's also the element of your own internal, right? Like morale and staff, like the thought or the feelings of your staff, right? So like in the beginning of our company, we were acting as everything. So like you said before, you were being Samantha of like our customer service. Yeah. But like, could you imagine, to the exact example you were just saying, could you imagine if you were a customer service rep and but I'm assuming that this isn't just American. So like every single airline that does this, they're dealing with the same shit every single time. And they have to have the same annoying conversation, which takes an hour. Like to your point, I don't know whether a customer service person cares if they only solved 8 problems in a day. But
I don't think they would care.
You would just basically like, what? You're getting paid?
Yeah, you're there for 8 hours. Like it's almost easier if I'm just on the phone with you for an hour and then I get to go to the next call, you know, rather than explore 42 new problems a day. You know, what do they care?
I don't know. I mean, I guess my thought is like,
although it does seem like it's their first day or the first time they've encountered this problem every single time. Every single time they're like, can I please put you on a brief hold for 5 to 20 minutes?
I've never seen this.
This has never happened? Ever? No one's ever been issued credit?
No one's ever canceled a flight before?
It's why.
It's got to happen 100 times a day. But what I'm saying is, you have to, if you care about your people, and if you believe that they're not just there, you know, because they're on the clock and they're getting paid, whatever. Like we think about this all the time. This would be such a frustrating thing to have to do the same thing over and over again. Like we have an internal process for however often something happens for like, when should we fix it with technology so that the customer service people inside of our organization don't have to do the same damn thing 25 times or 8 times a day.
That's what I'm saying.
It's because we care.
Speaking of caring, you look like a guy who cares about his body. You're welcome.
Yeah, actually, it's been kind of bad lately, but
I just want to say, hats off to you for what you did in 2024. Everything's looking real tight, real good. We're coming up on 2025. I want to know, A, what are your New Year's resolutions? But B, I want you to audit your resolutions from 2024 and tell me how you did.
Oh, I'll do this, but this is almost like an evil one to pop on somebody without any preparation. Like we've made the decision. I'll tell these people. We made the decision in the first at least few episodes of this, and we're planning absolutely nothing, as though they couldn't tell. And this is challenging because I care about this. Okay, so I got to tell you what my New Year's resolutions were for 2024. So we were together New Year's Eve 2023. That's actually a funny story. My New Year's resolutions were about intentionality. Basically, they were about being present.
Hold on. Is it
Is
just
another big
intention? Just intention, maybe. Is it about intention?
I don't know. I'll keep talking.
People say like, oh, it's like comfortability, or like just comfort, just comfort.
No, comfortability is a totally different word.
Is it? What's the difference?
So they were about intentionality and about being present, specifically like with my
Checkmate.
with my kids. And then it was about a little bit about making some specific time for myself in the morning. What it ended up, the way that I actually took an action plan towards that was I was going to be getting up every morning, not necessarily at 5 a.m., but somewhere 5 to 6.
Oh, no.
What?
It's a 5 a.m. club.
No, I know. I didn't join the club. I didn't commit to that. Just like
I thought your commitment was 5 a.m.
No, I wasn't a 5 a.m. club. I was going to get up. I'll have to look back and see if I actually wrote that down. But it wasn't specific to 5. I did start waking up really, really early, and then I gave it up a little bit.
Okay.
And then I started kind of like an idea of like just when I say being more intentional, like that better. I was trying to journal. I was trying to like write things down and like stay in tune with what I was thinking, how I was feeling about stuff. I actually just found it yesterday. I journaled like every single day of the month of January, and then that part fell off. The early morning stuff held for a good long time. What I found was like that it didn't quite work for my lifestyle with when the kids are getting up. So my kids are up at like 6 o'clock every single morning. I'm up a little bit before them or right around at the same time. So I don't know. I mean, on that, hold on. I'll digress. I moved my phone into a different room at night. So like,
did that stick?
That stick. Yeah, I now have it charges in a different room. So I don't have it at night. I do like listen to things and watch some stuff as I go to bed on an iPad, but it's not. I don't have any of my communication on it at all. I don't have social media on it at all. So I'm kind of like completely unplugged with that.
So are you intentionally waking up earlier? Or is it sort of just happening naturally? And if it's intentional, do you have a clock radio?
It was intentional in the beginning. I did get not a clock radio, but I did get a little like bedside table clock, just so that I know what time it is when I get up or if I wake up in the middle of the night, because I used to use my phone for that. So once my phone's out of the room, I had to have something, which I don't even know if that's a good idea. When you wake up, I know you wake up every single night at some point.
Yeah.
Do you look to see what time it is, or you don't?
Never.
So you don't. You could have been asleep for 30 minutes, or it could be waking up in 30 minutes.
Yeah.
Okay. So how did I do if I gave myself a grade? Actually, there was some more.
Let's iron this out, because for the audience, they're very unclear, other than you were going to be intentional and would charge your phone in another room. So what were the things you set out specifically as the resolutions?
So I would have to have the actual ones in front of me. In the very beginning of the year, I committed to focusing on so I got a cold plunge. You did too. The end of 2023. For like the first 6 months ish of 2024, I cold plunge pretty much every day. I've fallen way off in the last while. So I think I basically committed to doing things in my life. I don't remember the exact metrics that I gave myself. The journaling did not stick. It was before work in the morning, not really looking at my phone at all and spending all the time just completely attentive to the kids. And then after work, doing kind of the same thing until they went to sleep. The morning thing is completely stuck. In fact, in the morning, I leave my phone charging in another room. I go out and I'm with them in the front area of the house and doing our thing, and I have nothing with me. So like if you're trying to get a hold of me at 6 o'clock in the morning, 6:37, whatever it is, I don't have anything with me. I'm just with the kids, which is great. And then in the evening, I'm not quite as good as that, because when things are like really busy here, I do like sometimes I can't. It's hard for me to wait until they fall asleep to like have that moment of like, okay, I need to veg out in some way. But that's been pretty good. The funny thing about it was we were together on New Year's Eve. You heard all of these resolutions, what I was going to do. On January 31st, do you remember this? On January 31st, you called me, which you almost never call. I think it was a call because it was like
a text.
I feel like I remember it being like more.
You were reading it in my voice.
Probably. You were asking me how I was doing with my New Year's resolutions, how working out was. I see you every day, by the way, right? So how working out was, and I was like, there was no part. So maybe it was text because I'm doing this just naturally.
Yeah.
There was no part of my resolution that had anything to do with fitness. And you're like, okay, well, starting tomorrow, we have to work out. We both have to work out 5 times a week. And if you don't, if one of us does not, and I thought you were going to make some like high stakes fiscal bet with me, you cannot play golf with our friends, with our group the following Friday. You can play, but like you got to just find some random group out there and maybe I'll see you on the course and make fun of you. And so then from January through the end of June, when I took a trip, I worked out at least 5 days a week without fail. You fell off a little bit. I'll be honest with you.
I did.
I absolutely destroyed it.
You destroyed it. And not only that, it all is, it's a domino effect. You start working out a bunch. And so you kind of want to like ease off on the drinking, and then you kind of want to elevate the nutrition, and like you went full blown macro crazy and the whole 9 yards. But I will say, very impressed with the execution because you crushed it. I mean, for how old you are.
Why do you gotta go negative? It always has to go negative.
You are a shredded human, and that's downright impressive. So well done.
Thank you very much. I appreciate that. Yeah, it's gone a little bit haywire. So the second half of the year, we got sick. Ash and I both got sick after our trip to Mexico, Cabo.
Yeah.
And then I fell off the gym for a little bit. And then I started to get really interested in tennis. We saw that thing, that Elon Musk interview. We saw the Elon Musk interview that basically was talking about activities or
that keep you alive for
recreational sports and the amount of years that they add to your life. And the number one was tennis. 9.2 years, it said, it adds to your life. So I texted all of our buddies and I was like, oh, great. Now I got to pick up tennis so that I can golf for an extra 9.2 years. So I did that. So I started playing tennis 2 days a week, and I eased off on strength training, which was 5 days a week. And now it's down to 1 day a week. And then we also started to surf a bunch.
I didn't know that it's down to 1 day a week.
Yeah, I've been going. Well, no, it's supposed to be 2. It's supposed to be like a Monday and a Thursday, but like because one of the 3 things. So right now it's supposed to be, for me, my routine is for athletics or fitness. It's supposed to include strength training, tennis, and surfing. Which surfing doesn't seem like it's something, but like I burn so many calories.
Oh, it
surfing.
totally is something.
It's insane. It's because paddling is so hard. My heartbeat's like 168 per minute. Yeah. But waves don't cooperate. So like when if I can't build a schedule that's proper.
Sure.
For those 3 things. But how about you? Let's talk about your New Year's resolutions for 2020.
Well, now let's get into 2025.
Oh, God, you're spending so much
you want some time to think about it?
Yeah, I mean, mine are going to be really boring because I think the way my headspace is right now.
I'll take it over. Okay. For me, I don't remember specifically doing a New Year's resolution on New Year's Eve, but I do remember doing it on my birthday, which is in March. So I was at dinner with my sisters, and Amy asked me, "What's your?" I think she called it a birthday resolution. Basically, in the next year, at this age, what is it that you want to accomplish?
I might actually like that better. That's kind of interesting.
Yeah, I mean, it's all arbitrary, right? The start and end dates. So for me, I came up with it in the moment. Now, you may not know this about me, but I haven't always been the handiest guy.
I just want to put this out there. When I met Jay, there was nothing that would go on in his house that was done by himself. It would did you change light bulbs? Seriously? Like in a lamp?
Here's the thing. I probably didn't, not because I couldn't, but because I'm not going to go buy it. I'm not going to even look to see what size I need. Nothing. It's just, hey, that's out and it needs to be on. That's it. That's added to the list.
Yep.
So anyway, but it goes beyond that. But needless to say, not a handy person, not a handy man, some might say. So my resolution was, you know what? There's really no excuse for this anymore. I think there's a lot of things that, our parents teach us or don't teach us
Sure.
growing up. And so you start to learn about cars or like fixing things or cooking or whatever that is because you pick up on it from your parents and maybe they instill it.
Well, it's not like you hadn't been interested in it. I remember several years ago you asking to like come over at some point and see, because I was fixing something. I forget what it was. And you're like, I've never known how to do that. Oh, I want to see how you do that.
Well,
like,
and the older I get, the more kind of ridiculous it is that I don't know how to do those things. And it's sort of always been an insecurity of mine. It wasn't really like in my younger years because I guess it was less relevant. But, you know, the older you get, the more you want to be able to take care of yourself and be like, hey, I'm capable to do these things. Now, some things are a time suck. Like I'm not going to paint the whole inside of my house, right? That's just tedious and a waste of time. But there are things that you should at least learn how to do or whatever. So on the spot, I said, okay, my resolution is going to be, I'm going to learn how to become handy. And the reason I say there's no excuse is because everything's on YouTube now. Everything is on YouTube. You could figure out anything there. So like if you're dedicated to it, just figure it out.
Yep.
So I created a spreadsheet that was basically like anything I would normally just throw on that handyman list, I'm going to put on that spreadsheet and I'm going to try to tackle it myself before I send it to someone else.
Now this I did not know about. There's a spreadsheet.
Yeah. To see like what's the hit rate, you know? And
so was there a category? Was there like this I'm going to farm out, this I'm going to do myself?
In the beginning, no. In fact, it kind of took me a while to get used to because I'll give you an example. I think one of the first things was Ash wanted a couple of lights in our house to be dimmers. So I was talking to you about this.
Yeah, I'm like, the first thing you want to do is electrical?
Yeah, you're like, dude, don't touch electrical. I don't even touch electrical.
Yeah.
I was like,
well, I do if I turn off all the breakers in the damn house.
Well, that's all part of the equation. You got to do that. So I go to YouTube and ChatGPT, and that was, I think, the very first thing I did was like doing electrical in the house. Like I replaced like 4 light switches with dimmers, and I was like, hey, that feels good. That's like a little pat on the back, you know. I installed like a garbage disposal button in my counter, and
didn't know about that.
Oh, and so the thing that took getting used to was one morning there was like seeping water from the base of my toilet, and my mother-in-law was over, and she's like, "Hey, you got like standing water on your floor."
This is your master?
No, this is
guest bathroom.
This is the guest bathroom.
Okay.
That's 5 times the size of my master.
Sure.
So I was like, oh wow, okay. So I went in there, and sure enough, I see it's kind of like leaking out of the seals. And instantly, I reached out to a plumber. Mm-hmm. Hey, are you free to do this? Whatever. No, I'm not. Reached out to another one. Hey, you free? No, I'm not. And I was like, oh wait a minute. Like this is one of those things.
Yeah.
How complicated could it be?
Yeah.
So.
But that's a tough. It's around the base of the toilet.
It's around the base of the toilet, and
so you have to shut the main water line off.
And you're just like, well, not the main, but like the one, you know, right there at the toilet is the only one you have to shut off.
Oh,
but
I thought you were saying it's coming from.
It's coming from the bottom.
It's not that there's a problem with the seal at the base of the.
Yes, that's it.
Okay, I would think you'd have to turn everything. Okay.
So anyway, I don't know what the root of the problem is. So I just asked ChatGPT, like, hey, here's what I'm experiencing. What could it be? Mm-hmm. So it's like, well, one of the most common things could be that the seal is like aged and basically it's leaking from that. So in order to fix that, I never knew this, but that thing is adhered to the ground with wax. I didn't know that.
It's actual wax? I would assume that it's like some sort of
actual wax. Nowadays, you can get like rubber ones.
Yeah.
But back in the day, it's basically a circle of wax that you're compressing, and then that is adhering it. So anyway, yeah, I went about the whole thing, turned off the water, like basically was on my hands and knees, like getting all this. Yeah, it's like caulking, but it's like wax, you know, scraping it off and like looking through the depths of hell at these pipes in my toilet, right? But removing the toilet and then replacing it with a rubber seal and the whole thing, got it all cleaned up, boom, fixed. And anyway, there were things like that happened throughout the year. And at a certain point, it evolved into an interest in woodworking. So
you went from having a spotless garage that looked like it was like a scene, like I want to say like from Dexter or something, where it's like just
right. Yeah. It was very, very clean. It would have been a good kill room. Yes. Correct.
And then to just like every saw.
Yeah.
That ever existed.
So Ash, like, you know, she's always wanted this like dining banquette, like this booth thing in our dining room, and has talked about it. And we've gotten quotes on it in the past and stuff. And I'm just like, oh man, like I got to figure that out. I got to like, get with the person, get them the dimensions, like move out the old stuff, figure out a table for the new stuff. It just like always seemed like a project, and it was expensive. Well, I was like, I'm just going to see if I could build this thing. And again, went to YouTube, went to ChatGPT, and that was my first woodworking project. And
it's a hefty one.
It was a big one. It was a big one. So anyway, I did that. Did another project later in the year, and I feel good about the 2024 resolutions. So
was that the only one? Your one resolution was I want to be handy.
Yeah, that was it.
Well, then you knocked it out of the park.
Yeah, thank you.
You really did.
Wait till I tell you what's in store for 2025, but you go first.
What I think is interesting about you, so you'll do these like permanent bench. Like you're so excited about building this whole permanent bench thing into your house, and we got this whole deal and whatever. And like within the same week, you'll talk about moving.
Sure.
Constantly.
Yeah.
It's like you're just building permanent fixtures and making things absolutely exactly how you want them, but at any given time you can just poof, up in smoke.
Correct.
Yeah. Just I can't relate. Honestly, my number one, I don't know that I have anything past in 2025. I mean, I guess I probably will try to put some stuff together for maintaining a lot of what in 2024 with the stuff, with time with the kids, with the mornings and the evenings and whatnot. But this channel, commitment to content, commitment to finally like getting what we do that hopefully can help a whole bunch of people that we've been kind of being asked to do for years, and staying consistent with it. I mean, we've tried this a couple of times before, and we just got too busy with the business to be able to like consistently do this. It's probably my number one resolution for 2025 is to stick with this, stay committed to it, and just kind of, help as many people as we can with it. And I think help ourselves. I think like we're going to learn a lot of stuff as we talk through these things, because obviously we talk every single day and it's about a lot of this stuff, but like it's always with like a very specific actionable intention for our own business or something in mind. And when you kind of like step back from that and make it more of a, in general, this is how people should or could think, I think it'll give us a lot of ideas and help out a bunch of people.
You may or may not know this, but on your birthday next year, I am scheduled to have a daughter.
I did know this.
Oh, yeah, okay. So yeah.
People are gotta be like, everything. You may or may not know this. I talk to you more.
You're
than
never gonna believe this news. So first child, and I'm getting a lot of pull to want to lean into fatherhood in the right way, for a lot of reasons.
I'm not gonna cry.
But one of the main drivers is to, I feel like I've always been a pretty good provider, but I feel like I'm becoming very, very interested in also becoming a protector. So a lot of my 2025 goals have to do with that and like protecting my family and protecting specifically my daughter. So what
I don't want to pull up a clip of Jim Jeffries, but is that where we're going with this? Because on your calendar last week was a whole self-defense class that.
Oh, dude.
I want to protect myself. I want to protect my family.
That's one of the best clips ever.
Is that what you mean?
Yes. It's not just for that though. So what Jeff's referring to is a gun safety curriculum. And this one is gnarly, the one that I'm in.
But it's way more than guns.
It's way more than guns. Yeah. It's self-defense as a whole. It's survivalist, like tactical survivalist training is what it is. So it encompasses guns for sure. But this isn't like, you're not going to a range and like firing a pistol at some target. Like that is not what this is. Every single thing you're doing is pulling it out of the holster. You're always on the move. It's high stress. Like everything is trying to emulate a real life situation. How fast are you reloading? What's the target? All of these things. But a big component of it that's just crazy is like, and thank God it's there, is the gun safety piece of it and walking through like all the mechanisms of a firearm and like all the safety rules and just best practices and how serious they take it. This isn't like some bro out place where it's like, oh, dude, just grab the gun and start shooting, like at all. In fact, you're not even shooting a real gun for months until you graduate to that. And I've shot guns plenty of times, like in a range and stuff, and it's kind of like worthless. It's like yeah, cool, maybe you hit the target. You're not moving, the target's not moving. Like, you're probably doing it all wrong, which I for sure was.
Also, in terms of like safety and in terms of what it's also the opposite of what you're talking about, right? You can just like sign a little waiver. And I did it when I was like 18 years old. Sign a waiver and grab a gun. You're like, geez.
And ultimately, this is not going to help you. And this is also how you hear about horror stories happening in your house, like all kinds of stuff. So I love how deep the curriculum goes and how seriously they take it. It's almost like a belt system in jiu-jitsu where you have to like go through all this curriculum and testing and you graduate, and it's really, really cool. So I've been already starting that. But as a piece of that, you're also learning close quarter combat. So like I trained in Muay Thai for a long time, which is just striking. But once you hit the ground, what do you do? So I'm learning Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. I'm also learning close quarter combat stuff. Like what happens if you're right in my face? How do I like de-escalate that or end that right away? There's even stuff where people are going into your vehicle and trying to like carjack you and how you deal with that. And it just goes so deep, and your instructors are like Navy SEALs and cops and Marines, and it's pretty cool, man. So
I know nothing about any of this. It sounds like I need it in the worst way, but I'll probably just hope that I have like a tennis racket or a surfboard to hit somebody with.
Well, actually, so you just said it. So like a lot of this stuff, like in a perfect world, I become a freaking expert with a firearm and literally never use it. Right? That's like, that is the perfect scenario, right? But I think the whole daughter thing that's like really driving this is, you know, Ash and I have been all over the world, and we've been in hairy situations and things that like could have very easily gone the other way. And the reality is, I think a lot of us are, I mean, you're vulnerable to those things happening, right? Even in our backyard, these things are happening.
Sure.
And really all you're kind of doing as your only line of defense is calling 911, hoping they'll arrive on time, which I've learned, like, you definitely can't rely on that.
Sure.
And B, like, outside of that, it's kind of just hope. You know, like, I hope this goes well. I hope this doesn't go like this. But in a shitty situation, what could you actually do to defend your family or get yourself out of a situation? So
very, very little is the honest answer for myself.
And for most people, like the vast majority, I'd say. So that's a big focus of mine.
And then that would also be a question of like, would you engage? If there were a lot of people's lives were at risk and whatnot, then like, yeah, I'd like to think that I would engage. But
that's all part of the training, actually.
Yeah.
And there's all kinds of things you learn as to like things that you would think are common sense that aren't, and you start to learn why. It's super fascinating. So it's knowledge I really want, but also like the practical know-how of like actually training and doing it, you know, and the tests and all the stuff. So I'm very excited about that. So that's one piece of it. But then that also goes into like first aid, you know, medical response, like all of that, you know, CPR.
We took all those classes, I remember, before Crosby was born.
Yeah. So I'm really, that's a big part of it. And then lastly, and I don't know, you know, where this will fit in there, and it's not super closely related, but I told you, like, I've never really camped before.
Oh yeah.
Right. Yeah. So like, I will be doing that more in 2025, like recreationally or whatever, and start baby steps or whatever. But I am definitely very interested in at least taking a survivalist class in the outdoors of like, how do you build the shelter? How do you like survive, you know? Granted, that's kind of a situation you put yourself in, but I am very interested in that. And the same school I found that teaches that actually has similar courses as the United Defense class I'm talking about, where they do a kidnap survival curriculum.
Come on.
I'm not kidding. So the way this works is they teach you how to pick locks, how to get out of zip ties.
I mean, that's interesting.
All kinds of stuff. So actually, as a part of the training, they tell you be prepared for bruising, and like they will zip tie your ass up and throw you in the back of a trunk and put you in a dark room, and you got to figure out how to get out of it and survive. And I'm like, that's pretty interesting.
Now, how much of your resolutions and things you want to work on in 2025 have come from the amount of the show alone that you've been watching in 2024? Because I would say
100% of the outdoor survival stuff.
All of it.
Yeah, all of that.
Oh, that's all you. I mean, like,
yeah. How
many hours do you think?
And quite honestly, the woodworking in 2024, a lot of that came from Yellowstone, and they don't even do woodworking.
How much time do you think you spent I won't say wasted because I know that you feel really strongly about it. How much time do you think you spent in 2024 watching some form of Alone, which I now know has like every
ChatGPT,
single.
but yeah, I've watched every single one.
That is, yeah, that's. I'm not going to say impressive, but that is a lot. That's where it came from. So I'm excited. So basically, what we've learned in 2025. I will be in here creating content to hopefully bring value to these fine folks. And you'll be, I don't know.
I'll be out there protecting my community.
You'll be getting zip ties. You'll be getting out of zip ties and playing with guns.
Yeah, that's right.
All right.
So that is, that concludes another episode of the Who Cares podcast. Thank you for joining us. And you want to ask some favors of the audience?
I do. I want you to, again, do the smashy smash on the subscribe button, turn notifications on, and you want to ask for a comment. Ask for something.
Yeah, I think a comment. I think a comment would be great.
What's the question?
Yeah, ask a question. We'll talk about a topic that you maybe want us to discuss. A comment would be wonderful. Let's do that.
Let's do that.
Yeah.
All right. See you next time.